Hello, Booktube. Well, it's day 2 of Booktube-athon 2016, and the challenge for today is to read a book only at night. Now, in the 7 challenges of the Booktube-athon this time around, there are a few that present me with a problem of being sort of commonplace, not even challenges at all, and this is one of them because, as I've indicated on this channel a few times before, at midnight every night, I turn into a pumpkin. I disconnect from all social media and from the world and read pretty much all night long. I don't really sleep at night, or much at all. So reading a book at night is not a challenge for me. So I originally wanted to transform today's challenge into a chance to talk about a book at length that's about the night. I was thinking specifically of A. Roger Eckhart's great 2005 book, At Day's Close, which is a history of what night has meant conceptually, personally, socially to humans throughout history. It's a big, great, heavily researched book, and I was halfway through thinking it through, and I thought, no, wait a minute. You dragged them all through history yesterday. You don't want to do the same thing today. So I will leave the details of Eckhart's book down below because it's well worth your time if you want to study what the nighttime is. But in its place today, as the book I want to talk about, it's a thing of an entirely different color. It's from 1986. It's Frank Miller's Dark Knight Returns. This is a 4-issue miniseries that was then made into a graphic novel, and it's no exaggeration to say that it completely changed the face of comic books. And entered into a large part of the pop culture common awareness, which is why just a little while ago, a multi-million-dollar Hollywood adaptation of Superman featured a fight between Superman and Batman that's a direct homage to the climax of this graphic novel. And that wasn't the only direct visual homage in that movie. It's full of them. This is the story of a 50-something Bruce Wayne who is an embittered alcoholic. The world has gone to heck in a handbasket. Gangs rove the streets of Gotham City. Superheroes are no more. They have gone to the winds as a gigantically prevailing cynicism takes over the whole of the world and the whole of these issues. This is Frank Miller at his most right-wing, paranoid, nutjob, conspiracy theorist wonko. And a series of small triggering events, no one of which is great enough on its own, prompts Bruce Wayne to shave off his bushy mustache, go down into the Batcave, take the sheets off all the furniture, and become Batman again. And I was rereading this. I reread this last night in preparation for today. I've read it countless times. If you haven't read this, you haven't read one of the founding milestones of comic book literature in the modern era, for good or ill. But when I was rereading it, I was mostly noticing the ill. This is Frank Miller as a nut. All of his worst traits just gain strength as this thing goes along, as it gained sales popularity on the newsstand, and as he just loses himself in the story. The anti-authoritarian Frank Miller is seen everywhere in the fact that the semi-eternal and totally demented president of the United States is a wheelchair-bound Ronald Reagan who's spouting platitudes and has no idea what he's doing, no idea what's going on around him, just likes to hand people medals and jelly beans. And worse than that, far worse than that, as I remember reading at the time. I remember the first issue was a virtuoso masterpiece, just fantastic in every panel and page. But it was in the second issue that I started to notice trouble coming when the colors of the United States flag, fluttering in the breeze and mistily, sentimentally adored by this whack-job president, meld into the colors of Superman's chest emblem. And it quickly becomes obvious that Superman is going to become the poster boy for every kind of corporate sellout that has ever haunted the nightmares of Frank Miller. There are wonderful moments as a result of that. I am the world's biggest Superman fan, so when I saw that, I originally thought, oh crap, he's going to make Superman the villain of this thing. When that doesn't make any sense, and reading this again, I realized that the villain of the piece, of course, for the ultimate Batman story, should be the Joker. The small triggers that bring Bruce Wayne back to action as Batman have one thing in common. They represent the chaos of the modern world, and Batman is at his heart, as a character, is a knight-errant fighting against the chaos of the world. And of course, the foremost embodiment of that chaos is the Joker. It makes perfect dramatic sense that the book will build to a climax in which Batman and the Joker have a knockdown, drag-out fight, possibly to the death. And that does happen in here, but that's not the climax. No, because Miller is a nut job, the climax is Batman versus Superman. Two good guys fighting each other, possibly to the death. And of course, there's only one way that fight can go. Even though I hate to break this to you Batman fanatics out there, but Superman wouldn't lose against Batman under any circumstances. And you might say, well, no, Batman has the money, he has the time to prepare, he can make all sorts of technology that would bring Superman to his knees. Yeah, but Superman can see that from South America. And he can strike it from South America now. In any common sense reading of the two characters, there's just no chance. No chance at all. But I consider that to be a massive structural flaw of Dark Knight Returns. And not just as a Superman fan. The whole thing derails. And you can feel it derailing. Why are these two fighting? Because Superman has been ordered by the government to bring Batman in? And the government's letting him do this rather than bringing him in themselves? And Batman knows this and is willing to stand out in public and duke it out anyway? It's the fourth issue especially, for the last quarter of Dark Knight Returns, makes precious little sense. And all the rest of Miller's Devils have free range here. His misogyny, oh my god, it's rampant on almost every page. His fetishization of smoking, it's just as the coolest thing you can do. His penchant for sacrificing the internal sense of a scene or even of a whole chapter just for a couple of good lines. He loves good lines, and he's good at them, but you got to rein that in. Take it from one who knows. You can't structure things around good lines. And also, on a larger scale, and the thing that had the longest effect from rippling outwards from Dark Knight Returns, a Batman who is ruthless, who's vicious. A Batman who is the true ancestor of the one we see in Batman vs. Superman Dawn of Justice, in which Batman routinely kills people. I don't agree with that. There's a great scene in another graphic novel, I'll get to that graphic novel at some point here on this channel, in which Superman himself, arguing with Batman, reduces him to one line, says that more than anyone else in the world, Batman is someone who doesn't want to see anyone else die. I love that, and I think that's true. From a character, especially about a character who will not use a gun. But those negatives aside, Dark Knight Returns is unavoidable reading. It's essential reading, and it's also mighty damn entertaining. So if you haven't read it, by all means read it. And if you haven't read it in a long time, give it another try. You know, because it's one of those books, I'll give Frank Miller his due. He's nuts, but he's smart. So it's one of those books that has layers enough so that the more you read it, the more you'll get out of it. And that is my book you read at night entry for Booktube-athon 2016. So I'll see you tomorrow with my next challenge. Thank you, Booktube.